Guys, just to ask before we start our class, how's we are already finished two chapters, okay? So how about this subject? Do you feel it is difficult or it's too dry or you didn't feel the challenge yet?
I think so far so good.
So far, okay. I think I hope that you understand about the quality, right? So because the first chapters is about something about definition, probably something like mm, reviewing all you have already learned in software testing, right? Okay, guys, it's already 8:06 in the morning, so it's Monday. Mhm. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Uh, Good morning. Can we start with Kitab Al-Fatihah? Okay, guys. For those who are just joined the room or just enter the room, can you log on to your Putra Blast and sign up your attendance, please? Okay. So don't forget to do that because I put the uh, timing uh, to sign up your attendance until 10 o'clock. So I hope that you can sign up your attendance now. Okay. Okay, guys. We are now moving to new chapter. So chapter one and chapter two is already finished and already done. So as I mentioned to you before, that chapter will be in your first exam or first assessment. I more towards the assessment than exam. All right. So I hope that that chapter you still remember it, you still learn it and understand it because chapter one and chapter two are the one that give you the some definition or some introduction, right? Some fundamental of software testing, and really important for me. It's quite important, right? Just to make sure that you understand the concept of software testing. Okay, before I uh, continue with chapter three, product assurance, allow me to record this session. You can see my screen, right, guys? Chapter three, product assurance.
Yes, doctor.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
doctor.
you very much. But it's nice to hear your voice early in the morning, right? Okay, thank you, Anna, for for responding. Right. Okay, chapter three. It is about product assurance, right? So we have already learned about the fundamental of software testing, software quality, and then after that we learn about standards. So the two things that is really basic in software quality assurance or software quality, right? So now we are going for product assurance. As I mentioned to you before, the SQA is about process and also product. So now we are reviewing or we are learning or go through towards the product assurance. Okay, this is the learning outcome. At the end of this chapter, so you should be able to, the first one, you should be able to understand the concept, right? You have to be able to understand the concept of product assurance and also can differentiate between B and B and also quality assurance, right? And you also be able to describe the techniques of product assurance. So these three things. This is a really basic thing. It is not really advanced about product assurance. This is something like basic that you have to learn, right? And then you have to understand the concept. As usual, normally if you want to have to do something, you have to understand the concept, and then you have this is the thing that really uh, the term that are really related. That is VNV and also quality assurance. So VNV is verification and validation. I think you already learned that, and hope that you still remember. We have VNV and also the quality assurance. So describe the techniques of product assurance, the technique that you use for product assurance. So uh, these three things that you need to do or you need to know, and at the end of this course, right? So first, normally we have to define what is product assurance, right? So product assurance is an important aspect in SQA. So we know what is the SQA, right? We already know, we have already defined what is the SQA. It is an important aspect in SQA itself. So the establishment of confidence in the quality of the software product produced by the project, right? I think you already learned before that software testing is not about something that you need to produce or you need to deliver a software that is bugs free, right? Because it is almost impossible to have a bugs free product, right? But the testing itself is just to try to catch as much as you can to get the bugs in the system, right? To try to get the failure of to get the thing that can fail the system, right? And then when you get all the things, right, you see that okay, in this perspective, we try to test this, and then we find this box, right, and then we solve it, and then we solve it, and then we solve it from this perspective, this perspective, and this perspective, and then before we release that, right, before we release the system, we've already tested, and then it somehow something like give us the confidence that the system is already tested and it should workable as it is, right, and it's required. Okay, so this is the establishment, right? The SQA, the one that the task or the activity for ensuring, right, the product, the quality of the product is to establish the confidence of the software produced by the project. So it is something like to give the stakeholder or the owner of the system really confident that the system is okay, right? Is in the quality manner, okay, or in the quality condition, right? So the product are the software related to the documentation, and yeah, the product itself, it is not only software, but it is also the related documentation. Okay, so related documentation may include all those the document associated with the development, right? Any problem associated with the development, the software design, the software requirement specification, uh, software configuration, software, all that are related to the development, right? Operation, right? How to operate the manual, the operation manual, the maintenance manual, the support, right? The maintenance support, maintenance, retirement of the software. It is also something that you have to know the software also retired. Retired meaning that you have already developed the new software, and then the old software you want to terminate, meaning that you want to end of life of that software. They also have a retirement of the software. There should be also a plan on how to retire a software. It is not just shut it down, right? There are also because software uh, s- it is not only that sort of software itself, meaning the logic behind that. It is also the data, right? So the data you need to know how to clean up the data, how to transfer the data, or how to migrate the data before the software retire, right? Because sometimes software they build a new software, but the data or the database is the same, right? It is the same or migration or enhancement of the existing database. So you have to have something like some documentation on how to retire the software, right? Including that one. Okay, sorry. The product also including the installation and as administration on how to install the software inside the server, right? Normally we have a web base. Previously we have a client server. So we need to have an installation for the client, installation for the server. But normally now we have web base that we need to have a documentation on installation, right? On how to install a server, and also how to administer or how to manage the server itself, administration, documentation. So the whole project or the whole system need the documentation, but of course it is based on the project. It is not all project need to have the same documentation, but it is based on the condition. For example, if it is built in-house, meaning that it built in within the organization, or it developed by then outsource, meaning that there are some companies that are developing the system. So that one is different. They need different documentation because they need more uh, communication, more better documentation, or more understandable documentation, rather than in house that you need to also need to have documentation, but the terms and also the something like definition, it is already common, and you don't need to have a really thorough information about the domain information. So a product may also be a software service provided by the aquarium. So it also can be a service, right? It is not only a software itself, it can be a service, right? Okay, the outcome of the product assurance activity provide evidence, right? So we need to have something like, yeah, as I mentioned to you before, right? The thing is we need to have a something like the important of aspect of the SQA is confidence, establish the confidence, and then the outcome of the assurance, product assurance activity, the one that we want to discuss now, is the product assurance activity, is to provide evidence. We need to provide evidence that to ensure that people confidence with this. Okay, this is the evidence that we have already tested this. We have this evidence that we comply all the one that inside the contract, right? Before you make an before you develop a system, normally you are awarded to, okay, now your company is awarded to develop this system. So this is the letter of intent, okay, and then you make both of you make the contract, right? The contract meaning that what you have fulfilled, what you need to, what is required by you, and what is required by the stakeholder or the owner of the system for uh, delivering the project or to conduct the project, right? So they have something like contract, and they have to something like agreement between both party. So the outcome of the product assurance activity provide evidence that the software services product any related documentation are identified and comply with the contract, right? Have to comply with the contract, meaning that if the contract saying that you need to have SRS, you need to have a SDD, you need to have software testing documentation, and this, for example, SRS, you need to comply with it to uh, the ISO 29148, or if for the software design, it should be IEEE 1016. It is stated in your contract. Then you have to prove an evidence that your product, the one that mentioned, should be comply with the one in the contract. And any non-conformance are identified and addressed. The one that non-conformance to the contract are identified and also solved, addressed, right? So product assurance comprises these as the activities, right? Evaluate, plan for conformance, right? You have to have a plan, right? You have to have a plan to conform with some standard or the contract, and then uh, evaluate product for conformance, right? So evaluate the product itself for conformance to the one that specified in the contract or specified in the standard, right? So evaluate product for acceptability, right? How product can be acceptable by the user or by the owner of the system. What is how they want to make sure that, right? Evaluate product life cycle support for conformance, right? So product life cycle for conformance, right? If you want to if you want to develop the product, you have to make sure that you follow the cycle step by step, and then you have to show that this step is the one that you execute, or the step that you fulfill is in what do you call that really conform to the standard, or conform to the one that should be done, right? And also measure products. So you have to have something like measurement on how to evaluate the product itself. Okay. So as the SQA function confirms that software products are in conformance with established requirements. So the SQA function of the SQA to confirm that software products are in conformance, right? Conform to the established requirement, the one that is required. Okay. So what is the purpose of product assurance? So the purpose of product assurance, so we are talking about product assurance, we are thinking, so please in your mind thinking about product in this chapter, about product, and then the product, make sure that you are not thinking only the software, right? It is also the documentation, the related documentation for the software development, maintenance, and so on, the one that I already mentioned just now, right? So what is the purpose of product assurance? So product assurance, the purpose is to provide adequate assurance that the software product, right, the software product processes conform to specified requirement and adhere to the established plan by measuring and controlling the quality of product. So in this purpose, you have a lot of things that you have to see here, right? So provide adequate assurance, adequate assurance. So it's enough, right? Enough assurance that software product and process, product and process on to produce the product conform to their specified requirement, the one that is specified in the requirement or in the contract, and adhere to the established plan, right? Have a plan, something like that. And by measuring, one measure, you have measuring, you have measure, uh, for example, you have metrics on how to measure it, and then also controlling quality of the product. You have something that to control the quality of the product. This is the purpose of uh, product assurance. Okay, so product assurance deal with the assurance of the product by number one, defining product quality objective and metrication, the metric or the metric to measure, right? So you have to define the objective of the quality objective, right? In a product assurance. So what is the quality objective of this product, right? And then also metric, how to measure it, right? How to measure that you achieve the objective of quality objective, right? So this is the thing that you need to know in the product assurance. The second one, defining the standards and also the procedure. You have to define the standards that you want to follow, right? And also the procedure. For example, if you say that you want to have software testing, right? So software testing standard that you want to follow is 29119, right? So this is the thing that you need to follow. So the standard for software testing is for this one. So defining the product standard. So that one is the software. So 29119 is for the test documentation. How about for the requirement? Okay, requirement, probably you say that 29148. We want to follow that 29148. So you have to define the standard of the product. So as I mentioned to you before, second time, the product is not only the software, is also the documentation, right? And also you have to define the procedure on how to make sure that the quality of the product, and also the procedure to deliver the product or to come up with the product, right? So two things: define the quality objective, what is the objective of the quality, right? And also the matriculation. The second one is standard and also procedure, and the third one is dependability and also safety, right? So you have to ensure the product is dependable, right? Meaning that the trustworthy of the system, and also something like reliability of the system. System is reliable to be used, and also it's safe to be used. So these three things, right, that you have to see for normally product assurance deals with, right? So it deals with objective, standard, and also dependability, the one that mentioned here. Okay, uh, software product shall specify or reference uh, quality objective, right? So shall specify the quality objective, and normally objective, right? We need to have something like measurable. Whenever possible, we have to put the objective uh, in the measurable manner, right? Something like it is not something like the system is should be nice to see or something like that. Should be the usability of the system should be high, or should be yeah. So it's something like the objective should be something like you can measure it. And then if you, because if you cannot measure an objective, and it is not easy for you to specify that you have already fulfilled the objective, or you have already achieved the objective that you have already uh, mentioned, right? So the software development life cycle, including milestone and the input and output criteria for each phase. So you have to specify the software development life cycle, right? Including the milestone and also the input and also the output for each phase, right? So software development life cycle, and also something like methodology. You have a lot of things, a lot of software development life cycle methodology. So you have to specify which one that you want to use in your in your system development or software development. Then you need to include also the milestone, which one will need to finish first before yeah other activities. Verification and validation activities we need to specify, right, including the definition, schedules, resources that you need, and also approval authorities, the one who approve the activity, right? The responsibility, you need to show the responsibility of all the people that involved in the project, right? There's also responsibility of the quality activities, such as review, test configuration management, and also control, change control, non-conformance control, and also corrective action. So what is the responsibility of quality activities here, right? We have to mention that. And then you have to also mention the methods, right? The tool and also the rules that to be used in the product assurance. Okay, so product assurance again, as I have to mention here, plan, right? The plan, because if you want to have a make a product assurance, you need to have a plan, right? You need to have a plan, and inside your plan, what you have uh, what needed in the plan, it shall specify, you need to specify quality objective, right? Software development life cycle, the methodology that you use to develop the software, and also maintain the software, right? For the whole software process. The V&V activities, verification and validation, right? And you need to have information about the quality activities, what the activities that you want to do inside. You have to put in your plan what you want, the activity that you want to do, such as if you want to do reviews, if you want to have a test configuration management, how to do what is the responsibility of the change control, and also non-conformant change control, and also the activity for corrective action. The one if you find something and then how to do, how to correct it, how to maintain, sorry, how to improve the system, right? And then you have to specify also your method, tool, and also the rules that you will use. So next, we will need to define, or you need to know what is about verification and validation. So I think you already learned about verification and validation, guys, in software testing, right? Yes, right. The whole picture of the VNV. So the one that I will present now is just something like what call that a revision for software requirement. Sorry, it's not requirement. Verification and validation. Okay. So what is the definition of VNV? So system engineering discipline. Sorry, because my screen is here, right? So I have to go, to put my eyes there. Sorry. So a system engineering discipline employing a rigorous methodology for evaluating, assessing the correctness and quality of software throughout the software life cycle, right? So a rigorous, something like a really fine methodology, a really thorough methodology for evaluating, right? To evaluate and also do assessment, the correctness of the software. Is it software correct? Yeah, what it should, right? And quality of software throughout the life cycle. It is not only at the end of the product, at the end of the product life cycle, the one that we deliver the software is not that one. It is the throughout all the flow of the system, right? The flow on how to develop the system. For example, requirement, for example, the software design, right? So you have an inspection, or you have you have to evaluate for each of the phases in the software development lifecycle. So verify a developer's process is technically sound. Meaning, yeah, I think you already know what is technically sound, right? Something that you do. It should be is, yeah, normal technical activities. It's not something that you do. You claim that you do this some technical. You conduct some technical task, but it is not sound, meaning that it is not according to the one that should be. All right. So VNB definition. So VNB process are used to determine whether the development products of a given activity conform to the requirement of that activity, and whether the product satisfy its intended use and user need. So, guys, can you explain to me what is this mean? The product, the development products of a given activity conform to the requirements of that activity. So, can you explain to me what is this mean?
That the software product created by the developer meets the requirements by the stakeholder or the one who's asking for the product.
Not really accurate. Part of it, yes. Okay. That one, I think it is more towards the second one here. That is product satisfy the intended use and user needs, right? So what is the meaning of the development products of a given activity conform to the requirements of that activity?
Is to make sure uh, functional of the system is described to what it should be.
Again, Shazwan, not really clear.
The functional of the system
Mhm.
must be operate or functional to the requirement of the product, how it should work.
That one is the same with Ayman, I think, because that one is more towards the second one. Products satisfy the requirements need. That one is the second one, Adila. But what is the first one? The one that I mentioned before. Again, the development product of a given activity conform to the requirements of that activity.
So it could be that the product that is development, that the activity that they're developing, all the functions of that activity is need to be similar with the requirements of that specific activity that's mentioned in the requirement specification.
Operate correctly? No. Avida, can you give me an example?
Uh, like for example, um,
Maybe it could be like a prototype. We build a prototype to demonstrate some of the concept to the user. So the prototype are expected to do this, this, and this. So yeah, I think that's what the given activity met the requirement.
I think since it says a given activity, it means a single activity, not the whole prototype. I think it means like one activity that needs to be, for example, if I have, when I log in, it needs to load in this amount of time. So it definitely needs to load in that amount of time or something like that, I guess.
Okay. All right. So the one that Hazik mentioned, it's partly correct, but that one is only one activity, right? And only one activity. Uh, that one is again an example of an activity. Okay. Uh, from Shazan of no, Aimi mentioned that product built correctly. Uh, Product built correctly. Develop product in the right way. Yes, that also product built correctly and also develop product in the right way. That one is a high level, right? Is correct, but it's a bit more high level. But this is a bit uh, more thorough definition, right? Standard, no, uh, it's not about standard itself, right? Standard is part of it, but it's not really about standard. Okay. Uh, okay. I think normally, okay. So as I mentioned to you before, guys, if I'm now in the product assurance, if I mention about product insurance, you have to keep in your mind that product is not only the software itself. So now I see that a lot of people, a lot of you think about product, right? So you think about product, but it's okay. This is just starting of this chapter, right? So it's the product itself. It's not only product, as I mentioned to you. It's also the documentation related to the product. Okay, the development product. So we need to think about the product, the software itself, and also the required documentation, right, of a given activity conform to the requirement of that activity, right? If we something like if we have to build the requirement, right? So we are conform to that requirement activity that I have to produce the SRS, right? And then another activity is the design, right? So if I need to do the design, right? If I enter this design phase, then I need to know that uh, I have to produce a design documentation. That is another product. So this means that the development product of a given activity, that activity to let's say design, activity 2, test, right? Conform to the requirement of that activity, right? So in that activity, let's say the testing activity, I have to produce the test result, right? I have to put, test report, right? Test report, test plans, and test documentation, right? Test documentation, test plan, and also test report, something like test cases, right? Test design, and so on. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. The one that you mentioned, yes, is correct.
Sorry,
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
Can you explain about the first part again? I'm a bit confused.
Oh, okay. A bit confused. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, Shazwan. So I explain it again. So the development product, right? As I mentioned to you before, product is not only the software itself, it is also the documentation, right? And then of a given activity, because in software development, right, we have a lot of process, right? We have a lot of activities. We have activities of first do some planning, right? So that do the planning feasible uh, feasibility of the project, right? We have to evaluate, is it project feasible to do it or not, and then if it is feasible, then we start with requirement elicitation, right? We do try to gathering all the requirement. We go to the requirement analysis activities or process, right? And then we go to the design process. We go to the development process. We go to the testing process. This is all the activities inside the software development. And then when we enter all this activity, we need to conform the requirement of that activity. For example, the activity of requirement, gathering the requirement. The requirement itself for that activity is you have to produce the SRS, or you have to produce three documentation. For example, some project you need to produce more requirement. Something like, first you have to go for business requirement specification, and then the second one you have to produce user requirement specification. The third one is system requirement specification or software requirement specification. So you are conforming, right? If you do the requirement, if it is required from the contract that in this requirement analysis activity, you have to produce this documentation. You have to conform that activity, right? So for the second one, then you enter to the design, right? For the design activity, you need to produce software development, software design documentation, right? So that one you are conforming to the requirement of that activity, right? So and so on, right? You go for coding, and then you have to fulfill all the coding standard and so on, and then you have to produce configuration of your software, right? Something like that. So that one is you are conforming to requirement of that activity that you enter or in the or you conducted in your software development. Is it okay, Shazwan?
Yes, doctor. Thank you, doctor.
Oh, welcome. So, and then after that, you need to do the product. The product satisfy its intended use and user needs. This is the requirement. Okay. So this is the thing that you already mentioned first to answer the question that I've mentioned to you. I give it to you. Right. So VNV lifecycle process requirement are specified for different integrity levels. Right. So there is integrity levels. Then calculation of integrity levels also depends on the organization, right? So something like you have to do some complexity, or it is sometimes they have different formula to do that. But the thing is, you need to come up with the integrity level. So when you have an integrity level, then you can see that which activity that you need to conduct, right? So something like, or if you have a integrity level of 4 is the highest one is the lowest one, meaning that if we calculate and then the integrity level of that function, for example, for that function is 1, So the VNV is a bit less. The VNV activity will be a bit less, right? So if it is 4, then integrity will be really thorough. You have a lot of things to do in order to conform or in order to verify the uh, that function, right? Is it okay with you guys? Integrity levels?
Okay.
Not yet. Okay. Integrity level for I give you an example of automotive, right? Automotive for the activity sorry integrity level for safety integrity level, right? So for example, function for infotainment, right? Function for infotainment. So you try to get the risk of this function. So the risk for this function is really less. So and then you try to map the low risk of the function towards the software integrity level. Then you see that okay, so for this kind of risk, the software integrity level is 1 because it is just infotainment. So meaning that the verification and validation activity for that kind of function is less because it is not really high impact, right? If something happen for the safety. But if we are developing a module for braking, probably the automatic braking system or something like that, then that one is really high impact on safety. So when we see the risk and then we map it to the software, the integrity level is high. So if the integrity level is high, then you need to conduct a lot of V&V activities there, right? So this is the mean of integrity level. There are some measurement for that, but I will not go into that in this what call that in this term, the what this integrity level, right? So I will give you an information if I have some information that can explain this integrity level, because for me it takes a lot of time if I want to give you integrity level information, but it is something that uh, you have to calculate, right? The integrity level, and then you can see what you have to do in the VNV. For example of this, I can show you probably here the ISO. Oops, yeah. So this is the ISO 11012. Can you see this, guys? This is the integrity level. So there is a calculation on how to get integrity level 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I will not mention it now, right? So if you do some calculation and then you get the software integrity level, right? The VNV integrity level, then if it is 1, then you have something like no action, meaning that you don't have to need uh, no action on the what do you call that the software, right? The software product. If it is integrity level 2, then you need to perform a review. You need to review all you need to review the product. If started with the integrity level 3, if you calculate and then you get the integrity level 3, so you need to perform this, the software component testing, the software integration testing, what else? The qualification testing, and also the acceptance testing, right? If it is 2, then you have to only review the testing, right? Make sure that the testing is complete, the plan of the testing is complete and so on. But if this one, then you need to really perform it, and then you have probably someone to do the to perform this one, right? Okay, but this is, yeah, I just want to give an example of an integrity level, right? If I have information that easy for you to just some information, right? Just informative on how the integrity level is calculated, easy calculate, and then I will let you know, right? So, but just to mention about the integrated level for you. Okay, the scope of VNV encompass or include the system, software, hardware, and also it includes their interfaces. Right, software interface also included in this VNV. So this standard applies to system, software, hardware being developed, right? So also apply for software that's maintained or used, or legacy system, the old system, commercial off the shelf or codes, and also non-developmental items, right? So what is codes, guys? Do you have already know what is codes? It's not codes mammoth. It's what is codes? COTS, commercial off the shelf.
Oh, is it like product that is already been developed?
Yes, correct, Haziq. The product that is have been developed, we buy the product. Let's say we have something like we have something like uh, we have shopping portals, right? Shopping websites, right? You have a okay. You sell a hijab, right? You sell hijab, and then you have a really nice portal, and then after that you develop it by yourself, right? You develop this website, you develop the database and so on, but the problem is how people can buy, right? How people can make an online transaction. You are not developing a software to do that. You are buying or you are subscribing a payment gateway, a software for the payment, right? So you just embed it, right? You just buy the commercial of the shelf, right? This is the product. This is the software. It's just to handle the financial part or the payment part for customer to pay, right? That one is called a commercial of the shelf. The one that already developed, you just buy it or just integrate it in your system. So that one is COTS, right? Okay, the term software also include firmware, right? Firmware, microcode, right? And each of the term system, software, and hardware includes documentation, right? Mentioned to you before, right? If we are mentioned here about software, something about firmware, also firmware, the middleware, right? The microcode, the code is really tiny code that is interact with sometimes some hardware, and system, software, and hardware. The one that mentioned here also included the documentation itself, right? Documentation of the product. Okay, VNV process includes analysis, evaluation, reviews, inspection, assessment, and testing of the product. Okay, so if we mention about VNV, this process of in VNV include this, the analysis, right? Analysis of the system or analysis of the activities, right? Evaluation, we are evaluating it is okay or not, it is correct, it is conform to the standard, conform to the procedure that was uh, uh, specified, right? Doing a review, right? Doing review, doing inspection, assessment, and testing of the product. So some of this technique or some of these activities, for example, inspection, we will learn it in more detail, right? Later. So VNV is actually an extension of program management and system engineering, right? It is not something like you have a system engineering, you have software engineering, you have some what I call that some processes, right? Some processes, some phases. It is not something. It is different than this, right? Meaning that one cycle for VNV and also one cycle for system engineering, but it is an extension, meaning that you just embed VNV inside the system engineering itself, right, or software engineering itself. That employs, right, that employs the rigorous methodology to identify objective data, conclusion, to provide feedback about quality, performance, and schedule to the supplier. So it is something like it is extension of the process that we have already have, right? Already know. For example, we have a software development life cycle, right? And then and VNB is not something that is new cycle, as I mentioned to you before. It just put it inside the software development life cycle. For example, we have waterfall, right? We have waterfall. Then after that, the VNB is just put it in the waterfall in order to provide feedback, right? Provide feedback about quality, performance, and the schedule to the supplier. Okay. And then the feedback consists of anomaly resolution, right? The one that we find anomaly, we found something like it's not correct, some abnormal things to do, right? As abnormal thing that is captured in the development in the system. So, and then the resolution of that problem and performance improvement. We have a problem feedback for the performance, quality improvement, not only for expecting operating condition, right, but also across the full spectrum of the system and its interfaces. It's not only operating, right? It is the whole system, the whole product of software. Okay, early feedback. So this is the thing that you need to know, right? Why we need to make a VND? Why not? Yeah,
What is PNB?
sorry.
What was that?
Why we need to do VND?
Oh, to ensure product quality. Is that right?
Yes, yes, good. It's to ensure to product quality, but um, why not? Because previously, honestly, when I was studying before, I think way back in I think 2000 or 1998, 1998, 1997, right? The one that I learned before, probably the one that I remember that uh, normally we do testing it at the end of the process, right? At the end of the before the product release. That one, the one that I learned before, because I didn't learn the VNV. But why we need to do VNV rather than compared with testing before delivering the product? Guys, you know, right? The VNV is triggers to see face by face, right? Face every activity you have verification and validation, right? Rather than the one that I mentioned to you before, I learned from in 1998 about software development, right? At the end of the process, at the end or before releasing the product, then we need to test it first, and then the release. But it's different with VNV, right? You need to have something like all the activity need to verify and validate. So why we need this? Why we need BND?
Because it's easier to manage risk.
Easier to manage the risk? Yes, agree. But
Easier to reduce non-conformance costs.
to reduce the non-conformant cost, yes, correct. What else? To reduce the development cost, to reduce the development cost, um, uh, yeah, theoretically yes, but I'm more toward to reduce the total development cost, right? Because the development cost is normally a lot of people mention about the development itself before the releasing of the software. But for me, I'm more towards the total development cost, including the maintenance side, because you will reduce. Because if you do this, then the one that you can see obviously when you release the software. Because when you release the software, a good quality software, there will be a reduce of bugs. Then reduce of bugs, and then you can have the reduce of cost. What else, guys? What else?
It's much more reliable.
It is much more reliable. Yeah, but what is the concept of software testing? Something that the software testing before that they mentioned something a good practice of testing.
So like, it's more focused on the product.
Sorry,
Is it only focused more on the product about the test?
focus more on the problem. So okay, guys, good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Functionality, no. Yes, Anis.
Is it like we should have a testing in mind from the beginning of the software development? Is it?
Yeah. Yes, Anis. It is not really the one that I want, but
Okay.
it is close. It is close. Yeah.
Okay.
Test in mind from the beginning of the software development, meaning that we need to have an early feedback of this of the product, right? Because early what do you call that early bugs is cheaper than the bugs that you found at the end of the process, right?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
guys?
Yeah.
The one that you learn in software testing, right? The
Yes.
bugs that you find early is cheaper than the bugs that you found at the end of the process. Okay, so this is the thing that we want in VNB, right? Because we go for every process, and what we want to validate and verify for every process or every phases, because we want to have early feedback, right? That allows the development organization to modify the products in timely fashion, right? Meaning that in time we need to, yeah, modify the product, thereby reduce overall project and schedule impact, right? The one that I mentioned to you before, early what do you call that early detection, early bugs is cheaper than the bugs you found later, right? Without proactive approach, the anomalies and associated system changes are typically delayed to later in the program schedule, right? Resulting a greater program cost and schedule delay, right? The one that Shamila mentioned, right? About the program or the development cost and also the schedule delay, right? This is just we want to reduce it, okay? So we need to have a proactive, right? It's not a reactive. So you know what is the proactive and also what is reactive, right? Proactive, yeah, what is proactive and also what is reactive, guys? Guys, what is proactive and what is reactive?
Reactive is to responding to the event. Proactive is prevention. It's about doing things beforehand.
Yeah, thank you, Hazik. That's correct. This is just, yeah. The definition is understandable, and it's correct, because reactive is something that is some event have happened, then you respond. But proactive is you are predicting something that the event maybe will be happen, and then you make or you plan something, or you try to mitigate or try to reduce the effect of the event. Right. Thank you very much. Good. And then this is something that I think you already see in software testing. This is something like a famous V model, right? V model of verification that shows something like verification and validation. So have you seen this, guys? This is something that is really common. Guys, V model,
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
right? This is something that common for software testing. Okay, so you have something like requirement analysis, you have design, you have architecture design, you have module design, and you have coding. Then after that, you have to do testing, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and also the acceptance testing. Testing with this information or this documentation here will be the input for this testing. All right. So integration testing, you have integration test design based on the architectural design. Then if you want to make a unit testing, then you have to see the module design, and this module design will be the input for the unit testing, for the information for the unit testing. So I think this should be, you should still remember it and understand it, right? So you have some V model. The same with it is a simple something like it's not as simple as something like enhancement of the waterfall model that you have learned, right? The STLC waterfall model. Okay, guys. Next, VNB and QA. So these two terms in software quality assurance, the two terms that we normally what I call that we normally see or get. Yeah, that is VNB and quality assurance. So verification and validation, right? So you can just imagine verification and validation is something like this, yeah, something the V model, okay, and then the quality assurance to assures the quality, right? Two things. It is not the same. It is not the same, but it is something that complement each other. It is not something that QA do something else, VNB do something else, but it is something that complement each other. You have to have QA, yeah, something like QA and also VNB, and then we have to see what is VNB. So VNB, I mentioned to you before, more focus on ensuring the requirements are being met, right? Requirement are being met. Requirement here is also requirement for the specific activity have been met. The overall project is focused on the correct objective, and the risks are is being managed, right? All for the risk is being managed by this VNV, right? So you are reducing the risk, or you are managing the risk, okay? But however, QA QA is more focused, right, on day-to-day aspect of a project and is used to determine if procedures are followed, right? So this is more towards the day-to-day, the person who are conducting or developing the project, if the person is following the procedure or not, right? This is more QA, quality assurance. Mentioned to you before, software quality is about culture, right? It's about culture. It's about the one nurturing, right? You have to do day to day, right? You have to, let's say, if you have to do coding, right? The procedure of doing coding here is this is the procedure. Something like you develop the, let's say you do something like agile, right? You take one user story. You take one user story, and then okay, this user story, I want to develop this user story, and then you develop the software straight to the coding and so on. You make a design a bit, then make a coding, and then after you make a coding, and then you commit to the GitHub, commit to the software configuration version tool, something like that. But the procedure is, before you do the commit, before you send or you submit the code, you have to go for the senior manager, senior programmer, check your code first. Then after that, he will confirm that the code is okay. Then you can submit, something like that. So you are not following the quality procedure, right? So this is the thing that more towards the day to day, right? But the quality of but the VNV is the whole process itself, right? the whole process itself, the product, right? The product, let's say in for what do you call that? For for example, for coding, right? For coding, this is the module that you have to uh, you have to come up with, right? And then after that, from that module, you have to ensure that, okay, this module conform to the previously designed. Okay, this is okay module. Before we go for testing, then okay, all this is already done, right? Module here done, and then it's also inspected, right? Okay, this is BNB, right? But QA is more towards, okay, this is the quality procedure that I have to follow. Something like that. Guys, do you can differentiate it? I hope that I clearly mentioned to you or clearly explain it to you. Thank you, Shazwan. How about others?
So, yeah.
Clear, right? So something like this, VNV, the process of this activity, make sure that this activity VNV you have verified and also validated. But the QA itself, it is inside when you are doing this one day to day on how, let's say, on how you gather the information. Is it following the procedure or not? That is the thing for the QA. Okay, so VNV principle, right? We have the principle of VNV, verification and validation. Errors, defects should be detected as early as possible. This is something that I mentioned to you before about testing. That our testing, our sorry, for VNV, the one that we want to have is early defect. Right? We want to detect the defect before or prior to delivery of the system. Right? Then VNV must be conducted throughout the entire life cycle, the whole life cycle of the software. It is not only part by part, or it's not only before the software is delivered, but it should be done all activities or entire life cycle of the software. So the outcome of VNV should not be considered as a binary variable. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But you can have something like more meaningful that should be something that this is okay, this is not okay, but it can be the software can be released, something like that. Right? It is not something that no, yes, and it's hard for people to determine whether the software can be released or not. Right? VNV requires some independence to prevent developers bias. So what is your understanding about this statement, right? Verification and validation requires some independence to prevent developers' bias. What do you understand about this statement, guys? Yes, Hazik?
The binary variable.
No. I mentioned about VNV requires some independence to prevent developers' bias. This statement, the red and blue.
It must be evaluated by multiple person. Is it something?
Multiple persons, yeah, it's partly correct, but it's not really yeah, not really correct, because multiple person can be the multiple person also can be the developer of the system, right?
Yes.
Yes, this is something like the thing is somewhat of some independence, right? Need certified organization to make sure correct evaluation made. Yes, this is kind of some independence, meaning that you are inviting people outside the organization, right? Or the one that have some certification come and then make a VNV for that. Yeah, that's also correct. That's also fine. This means that the some independence, right? For example, it is normal. It is really normal in the organization or in industry that the developer is something that they say that okay, this is the code. It's perfect. I already tested. No worry. The software is perfect now, right? But yeah, and then they are really defensive. Normally, developer are really defensive. Oh no, this is okay. No, no, this is correct. But it's something that you need to have someone that is not related to the organization, right? Because if I am the tester and I have a good relationship with the developer and I'm not a really good professional, then you will find a really problem, right? Because you have okay, this is from Aziz. Aziz is my best friend. Yes, yes, this is okay, this is correct. So this is something like a bias there, right? Bias of the developer, right? And then also sometimes some people asking another developer to do that, right? So it should be some independence, meaning that the one who are doing the VNV is the one who are not really related to the project, right? You can take other developer in other project, right? But not the developer inside the project to do the VNV or to do the inspection or to do the verification of their own software. So VLB requires some independence. Right? You can also it depend on the system, right? It depend on the system, depend on the critical of the system. If it is something that system that is not really safety related or security related or really high risk, then you can find someone that not related to the system to come and then do the verification. But if it is really high risk or really safety critical system, then you have to hire someone who's really independent. The one that mentioned by Shazwan, the one that have a certified organization to come, and then they do the PNP. So it depends, but it have to be some independence to prevent the developers bias. Okay, so another principle is BNB is difficult in general, so you have to be creative. Creative and insight are required. It is if you if you have to make a rigor BNB, let's say you are you are you are involving to a project that is a really safety critical, and also let's say you are working with the automotive company, and then you have to develop a system for handling system. The system you have to do the handle the handling of the car. That one is really safety critical, right? So every phases, then you have to do an inspection to make sure that you don't do any mistake or any mistake on calculation or transferring or transforming the calculation into the coding. Then you need to do the really thorough uh, VNV. It is really difficult. It is really difficult, but you have to be creative, right? You have to be creative on how to tackle the system, how to fulfill the requirement with the specified time. Okay, credibility can be only claimed for the prescribed condition which have been validated or verified. So if you are only can claim that this is already verified, but in this condition, right? You cannot claim that okay, we already test condition A, condition B, and condition C, and then we know we claim that this system can be run or can be used in all conditions, right? You cannot claim that. You only claim that the one that you only verify. This software can be is workable in condition A, condition B, condition C. It's not all condition, right? We only can claim that. This is the principle of the VNV, right? So complete testing, model testing is not possible, right? Right? The one that you have already learned in testing, right? The what is the principle of, because testing you have 7 principles, right? So what is the principle of bullet number 3 that is related to software testing? Or it's already here. Testing demonstrates the presence of defects, not their absence. What is another principle of testing? Can you Google principle of testing that is related to complete model testing is not possible?
We
If you
cannot
don't,
test everything in the software.
yeah, there is correct,
Oh,
Alice. Yeah, thank you very much. Correct, but there is what call that uh, oh, what call that there's a statement there, a statement uh, principle. Sorry, testing principle. Okay, Shazwani mentioned all. Okay, testing show presence of defects. Exhaustive testing is not possible, right? That one is also related to this statement. Thank you, Shazwani. But I asked you to pick one, but you put all. But actually, you have to think which one is related. The one is related is testing shows presence of defects, right? Yes. And the other one is exhaustive testing is not possible. The one that mentioned by Anis. But this is the the statement of testing, right? And then so you need to know that if you want to test all, it's not possible, right? If you something like if you have input of uh, it's just a binary input, or probably you have maybe input of 10 or 20, right? 20 input, that is a binary. So you have to test, if you want to test all combination, how much, right? 2 power of 10, right? 2 power of 20, right? You have to make sure all, if you want to make sure all the combination is tested. So it's something like exhaustive, right? So you have some calculation, right? One test case, uh, probably if one test case take you maybe around 5 minutes. So if 2 power of 20, if it is 20 input, 2 power of 20. So how 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 much time that you need to spend in order to complete all the testing? And that one is only probably one module. Then if you have maybe 10, 20 module, the same input, then yeah, exhaustive testing is not possible. Okay, right. Next is VNV must be planned and documented. It is not just you just jump to the development phases saying that I want to do VNV. Amar Hakim. Oh, sorry, Amar. Yes, you are correct. So I only see the Shazwani answer. So Amar, yes, you are giving the right answer. So exhaustive testing. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, so back to the VNV principle. So VNV must be planned and documented. It's not only you just jump to the, okay, I want to do VNV. I want to do VNV for this phase. I want to do VNV for design phase. You cannot say that, right? You cannot do something like that. You need to have plan, because uh, software development have time, right, to fulfill. You need to develop according to time. If you don't have plan, then you will delay the you will delay the project, and it should be documented, because if it is not documented, how people can refer it, right? So you say that, okay, we want to do we have a plan. Where is the plan? and then the people can read the plan and then execute the one that you already mentioned, already documented. Right? So this is the BNP principle. So what is the benefit of BNP? So yeah, I already mentioned to you what is the benefit of BNP, right? So BNP, early detection leads to better solution rather than quick fix, right? Early detection leads to better solution rather than quick fix. Meaning that quick fix is the reactive, and then early detection is more proactive, right? So validating the solution is solving the right problem, right? Validating solutions, you want to solve the right problems. Again, the software requirement, the one that needed in the software. Objective evidence, you need to provide the evidence of software and system compliance with the quality standards, right? Support the process improvement with an objective feedback of the quality of development process and product, right? You will improve the process where you get the feedback from every phases or every activity that you validate. Next, the BNB techniques that we have, right? So we have informal, we have static, we have dynamic, and we have formal techniques. So informal techniques is rely heavily on human reasoning, right, and subjectivity, more towards the what call that human, uh, more on manual, right? Manual that you do some inspection or a lot of things, right? Inspection or review, right? It does not imply the lack of structure or guidelines. That lack of structure and also some guidelines is not really a strict guide on how to do that. It's just a guideline, but a bit loose one. And then a static technique concerned with accuracy assessment based on static design, method execution. Dynamic techniques is require instrumentation, execution, and also analysis, and also formal techniques where based on mathematical correctness proof, right? You have to prove the correctness of the mathematical. Let's say you have analyzed a requirement, then when you analyze the requirement, this is from that requirement you derive a formula on how to uh, to solve that, right? Then you have to make a formal verification, right, on mathematical correctness, right? But one question for you guys: what is informal? Yes, informal, something that I mentioned to you before, more on human reasoning, more on in what call that subjective, and more on towards manual. What and also the formal techniques that you have, formal methods that is formal in represented probably in mathematics formula, and then you prove that mathematic formula is correct. But what is the static techniques and also dynamic techniques? What is the different uh, different between static and also dynamic?
That's great. Is it like it doesn't change much?
Sorry,
Is it like
Harvey?
the technique? It's about accuracy, and it doesn't change.
Oh, static and dynamic. Okay, does it change? No. That not related to the BNB technique that we are discussing now. Yes, static. Maybe a lot of people thinking about static is doesn't change. Dynamic is changing. So this is it's correct. If we think about term of static and dynamic, but the static techniques and dynamic techniques in BNB is something is a bit different, right?
For static,
Yes,
uh,
Aliza.
as static testing is to prevent the defect, but for dynamic it's like we find and fix the defects. Yeah, so static is performed before the code is being deployed, and then dynamic is after the code has been deployed. That's what I understand.
Okay. It's partly true. It's partly true. It is not really not correct, but it's partly true. Where static's more towards the code is not what call that not finished yet, and also dynamic is something that the code is already finished, and then you run it, right? And then try to find the effect out of it. So Tuan Sarifah mentioned about static prevention of defect, dynamic finding the defect. Sorry, this is not really correct. What is the when you do the static testing and also dynamic testing, what is the difference? Okay, thank you, Ilya. This is the one that I'm looking for. Yes, this is the one I'm looking for. Thank you, Ilya. The difference with this with static and dynamic is static is the thing that we are not running the code, and dynamic is we are running code. That one is the difference between the static and also dynamic in testing and also in the BNP technique. Is it okay, guys? Clear? If if is if the code is not running, then we are executing the static technique. But if we run the code to evaluate the system, then we use the dynamic technique. I hope it is clear for you guys. It's simple.
Yes, Doctor.
All right.
Yes, Doctor.
For example of static technique, right? For example, for static technique, is that you are not running the code, and then you get the code, and then you have a tool on reviewing all the codes, meaning that you want to see how much for every class, how many what do you call that how many attributes, the size of the class, right? How many attribute, how many the function or methods in the class, and then you want to see the relationship, how many relationship inside the class, how many what do you call that class that refer to this class, and so on. So this is more towards static, right? We are not you are not running the code, but we want to verify all the code is okay, meaning that this is not there is no code that is really related to all codes. That one is something that violation of software design, right? You don't have you don't want to have something like a god class, something like that, right? So you have to make sure that all is okay, right? So all is in what called it in good design. Okay, so that one is a static one. But if you run the dynamic, right? The dynamic one, meaning that you run it, you want to make sure that all the the function inside the software is according to the requirement and so on, and it is function, right? It is function. Then the dynamic the dynamic technique is done, right? Because you are running the code, something that the UAT, right? The user acceptance test, where you run the code and then you try to find and then you try to do the specification based testing, right? There is a specification written before, meaning that you are referring to the software requirement specification, and then you test the software, right? The software is running, so it should be clear, right? So informal techniques is more towards the human reasoning human. It can be something like static technique, right? The one that you are not running the code, but this is more towards more reasonable, right? Try to see, okay, the code is okay or not. using the correct suitable sorting or suitable data structure techniques that should be right. It's something like that. Okay, so this is the thing that we from static technique, right? This is the VNV techniques. We have informal, we have static, we have dynamic, we have formal techniques, right? This is some of the formal techniques, right? Correctness proof, conversion proof, stability proof, induction insertion. This is towards more mathematics or more formal methods, right? So as I mentioned to you before, the dynamic acceptance test, the UAT, right? So this is the example of dynamic comparison, execution profiling, fault injection, right? So you run the code and then it's not accidentally. It is something you purposely put a fault there. It's a fault, something like fault injection, right? You are still running the code, and then also the regression testing, analysis, statistical techniques, and also visualization, also and animation. This is more towards the dynamic, where you are running the code while doing the analysis, right? And then this is static technique, the one that is static, right? Cause effect graph, right? You have the code, and then you try to make a control analysis to cause effect graph out of it, right? And then you have a failure analysis, interface analysis, a traceability analysis. This is more towards the static, right? And also you have an informal. Informal is more towards something like this is some techniques. Inspect the documentation. So documentation check, right? You are checking the documentation. Is it documentation is there or not? And then reviewing. You are reviewing the work product and also the walkthrough. Oh, this is not walkthrough. It's just walking through all or walking line by line of the code itself. So this is informal. I think we are go towards in this course. We are more towards the inspection, right? The inspection, and then honestly, first assignment will be inspection, right? The inspection of requirement, and after that we are going to go for a static one, right? Static. Dynamic, I think you are already done something, right? In your software testing, acceptance test, specification base. I hope that you are still remember that, right? So you still remember, right? The acceptance test before, the one that you have to do the test cases, specification based on the specification, guys.
Yes.
Still remember, right? So you still remember the technique. So what is the technique of testing that you still remember?
Control structure testing,
Control graph or control structure?
cause effect,
Cause effect graph, yeah. TEG. What else? The dynamic one. Oh, the testing technique. Sorry. What else, guys?
Equivalence partitioning.
Yes, good. Equivalent partitioning. Path testing, good. Boundary analysis, right, guys? Decision table testing, and so on. So I hope that you still remember that, right? This is also something like related to this course, right? Okay. So VNB, conclusion of VNB is the VNB methodology and measurement outlined in 1012. Okay. So 1012, the one that I have already showed to you before. Okay, if it is downloaded by the UPM, then I will share it for you. Oh, to you. Okay, yes, I can share this for you to see, right? In Putra Blast, because this is something that will be related to your assignment, that you need to refer this table activity. This is common activity. So the the one that you need this activity for requirement analysis, right? So you need to refer to this, and you need to refer to this table, right? So I will share it to you. So I just want you to have a feel on reading. It's just a part of uh, of standard, right? So I hope that you can try to get something from it. Okay. Then provide the framework for achieving an effective VNB effort, right? So provide a framework for achieving effective effort. And then the VNB part, software quality management process as defined in IEEE SWIBOK. Guys, do you know what is IEEE SWIBOK?
No,
Have you learned that?
no,
No, sir.
Really? No.
No.
No, sir.
Oh,
We didn't learn it.
okay, okay. All right. SWIBOK. The SWIBOK is SW is software engineering. SWI. BOK means that book of knowledge. So it defines a lot of things here. I think this is really informative book that you are freely to download the SWIBOK. Currently, it's version 2000. If I'm not mistaken, 2013 version 3 SWIBOK. So it defined all the phases of software engineering lifecycle, and then they mention about what uh, it is not really what call that uh, a really lengthy documentation. It's just something like short information about the life cycle, right? But it's fine. It's if you want to read it, I can put the SWIBOK in uh, the course material there, because I have a copy of it. So complementary to and supportive of the software quality assurance reviews and inspection. So it's a complementary to to support software quality assurance review and inspection. This is VNP. Okay, next will be software inspection, right? So we will learn, inshallah, in uh, on Wednesday. Yeah. So as I mentioned to you before, your assignment will be software inspection of requirement. Then I already mentioned to you that your group should now try to find requirement documentation, right? Any requirement documentation, if it is internet from the internet also okay, and from your uh, previous course also fine during your what do you call that, requirement engineering course, requirement specification course. Okay, guys. As for now, any questions so far?
Um, no, no, no.
Okay. No, thank you.
Doctor,
Yeah. Yes, Shazwan.
for the VNV certified organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is if they don't, if a company hired them
Mm-hmm.
to make inspection for VNV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the organization badan yang di hire tu,
Mm-hmm.
dia perlu license daripada SIRIM apa-apa ke untuk jadikan organisation dia tu certified?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Shazwan. Okay, Shazwan asked about certification on the company who eligible to do the VNV, right? So in Malaysia context, sorry, in Malaysia context, this is the thing that I involved before. So the VNV, verification and validation, in Malaysia, if for the government, this is for the government context. So they have something, we have something like what do you call it, certification called TMMI, right? Test maturity model, something like that, right? Maturity model, the MMI. They have something like level 5, level 4, level 3, yeah, 3 levels. So the one for the government, if you want to be an independent verification and validation vendor or company, you have to achieve the TMMI level 3 at least level 3. So they have something that they have to prove that okay, we are now a certified TMMI level 5 and level 3, that we are eligible or we can take IVV. We can conduct the IVV independent verification and validation task. So in Malaysian, in government, for the government of Malaysia, yes, there are something like regulation that they need to certify by the TMMI, and this TMMI. It is not a local Malaysian. It's not a local recognition. It is an international body to certify the TMMI. Is it okay, Shazwan? Yeah, it just depend on the if it is industrial or something like private company, that one is not applicable. This is only applicable for the government side. For the industrial side, they probably can hire some any company that claim that they can do the IVV, the independent verification and validation. So yeah, it can be someone that are not certified, but for I can give the Malaysian government perspective, they should be certified at least the MMI level 3. That one is the one that we need. And yeah, independent verification and validation is quite a high cost, right? Normally around maybe 10 to 30% of the software project itself, right? If yeah, no, if the software development costs you around 1.5 million, then the independent verification and validation may take you around 10% to 30% of that cost. So it is kind of making money to be an independent verification and validation company. Any questions, guys? Shazwan, is okay?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So, any question more? Don't forget to sign your attendance in Putra Blast. So if you don't have any questions so far, now we can dismiss and we see inshallah on Wednesday.
Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.